Hello, this is Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio. This week, we're going to have a rebroadcast of one of our earlier classic podcasts. We hope you enjoy it, and thanks so much for listening. Episode number 707. So, you want to meet a big name?
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
I am online this week with the BNI U.S. National Conference. So that's always a blast doing the conferences. We've been doing them for decades now. So
Great.
Good week.
So what's this topic about?
So I had someone recently ask me a question. He said, let's say that you, Ivan, go back 30 years and think about where you were early in your career. If you didn't know someone personally and you really admired them and wanted to take a shot at reaching them, how would you do that? I thought that was an interesting question.
Yeah.
And so here's my answer. Here's the short answer, then I'll give you the long answer. The short answer is I would not reach out to them directly.
Uh-huh.
Because, if they're a big name, they're probably not going to take your call or your email. So I would find someone who knows that person and I'd get an introduction. And that's exactly how I met Harvey Mackay years ago, who was the author of Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. I met him back in the 1990s. And, I really think that getting an introduction from a trusted third party smooths the path to meeting someone, especially if that someone is well-known or very successful. And Harvey was way more well-known than I was back in the 90s and very, very successful. In the 90s, my business was still small. I hadn't written any best-selling books, so very few people knew anything about BNI or who I was. Still, I wanted to meet Harvey and ask him if he would contribute a piece to a book that I was working on at the time. And he had written about networking. I thought he'd make a good contributor to the book. The problem was that with no name recognition, I couldn't get past the assistant, no matter how many times I tried. And man, I tried multiple times and just couldn't get past the assistant. And it took the better part of a year. But one day I was in another state in the U.S. It was part of a book tour that I was doing for one of my first books. And a BNI member in that city asked the local director if he could pick me up at the airport and take me to my hotel. And I told the director I'd love to meet the member personally. So we spent some time on the drive and he asked me a lot of questions about my book and asked me questions about BNI. He came to the event that I did that week and he asked if I'd like a ride back to the airport the next day. And I said, yeah, sure. And on the ride back, we continued our previous conversation. And as we got closer to the airport, he thanked me for all the suggestions I'd given him on how to build a powerful personal network. And then he asked me the magic words that I always say people should use. Is there anything I can do for you? What can I do for you? Well, as I said earlier, I had been trying to get through to Harvey Mackay. And I had asked people if they knew Harvey. And so far, I really couldn't find anyone. So I thought, what the heck, I'll ask him. I've been trying to connect with Harvey Mackay and I hadn't had any luck. I just can't get past his assistant. You wouldn't happen to know someone that knows Harvey, would you? And Priscilla, I swear to you, he says, sure, I know his assistant really well. In fact, I have her mobile number.
Wow.
And I'm like, really? How do you have her number? And I was absolutely dumbfounded. And I asked him, how do you know her? He then went on to explain that he always volunteers to drive visiting authors from the airport because it's a great way to get them in a car for an hour and learn about them and learn from them. And that's why he volunteered to drive me. And he told me that he'd talked to her many times when he agreed to drive Harvey from the airport the previous year. And he asked me why I wanted to connect with Harvey. In other words, he wanted to qualify me before he passed on
Yeah.
his trusted contact. And I told him that I wanted to ask Harvey if he'd be willing to contribute to a book I was writing called Masters of Networking. And I said Harvey had written a book on the topic of networking, and he'd be such a great contributor. I really wanted him in the book. And the driver said he'd be happy to reach out to Harvey's assistant and explain what I'm doing and ask her to contact me. Well, guess who called me the next week?
The assistant?
No, Harvey.
That's
Harvey McKay
incredible.
called me directly. We had a great conversation. Obviously, this BNI member not only made the connection, but explained it thoroughly why I was trying to get through. So the assistant didn't even reach out to me. That was good enough. She trusted him enough to pass on the information to Harvey, and Harvey contacted me directly. Harvey is an icon in the business world, and I was really honored to talk to him. It was a fantastic conversation. I learned that he absolutely walks the talk when it comes to networking. He was masterful in getting to learn about me and about the book I was doing. In fact, he agreed to provide a contribution to the book. And I really got to know Harvey better over the years. He spoke at one of our BNI conventions, and I had a chance to talk to him on many other occasions. Some people may think that it all happened just because I asked, but I would say that's only part of the story. Yeah, I asked, but I asked people who I knew and who I believe trusted me. More importantly, they knew I wouldn't betray that trust by doing something other than what I said my intended purpose was. And that's really important. People don't want to give a referral to someone that just wants to sell something to an important contact they have, unless that contact, of course, is asking for that kind of a connection. So that's the long version of the answer. If I were to go back 30 years and think about where I was early on in my career, and I wanted to meet someone I really admired, how would I do that? It's easy. I'd ask people who trust me for the referral. And this gentleman trusted me because he knew of my work for many years. He was a BNI member. It worked for me, and I still think it works for me today. And I would submit to everyone listening to this that it'll work for you as well. If you've got a story similar to that, where you had a good relationship with someone, a good professional relationship, and then you made the ask, and then you got the contact you were looking for, I'd love for you to share it here on BNI Podcast. And of course, you are always welcome to leave comments. I read every comment that is posted up here on BNI Podcast. Well, that's it for today. Priscilla, any thoughts? We've got a little time. Any thoughts on that?
I love that story. It's such a great story. And I just want to add to it a little bit. You know how you always talk about it, that you're a dog with a bone?
Yeah.
Well, this is a perfect example of that, because you had this desire to meet this person and you just asked and asked and asked.
Yeah.
And like you said, it wasn't the only reason that it worked, but you didn't give up.
Yeah. And I think the key here is that I asked people who I felt trusted me, who I felt I was at credibility. If you go visibility, credibility, profitability, I believed that the people I was asking, I was at credibility with. And many times they were BNI members. And even though they didn't know me necessarily personally, they knew of my reputation. They knew who I was, and they trusted me. And that's the key, because the old saying, and I know we did a podcast on this, Priscilla, it never hurts to ask.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrong. It does hurt to ask. If
Yeah.
you ask and there's no relationship or no trust, then it hurts the relationship. And so there has to be a level of trust. So when you have that level of trust, then what you just described is right on the money. You got to ask and ask and ask and ask people who you believe trust you, because you just never know who someone knows. When he told me, oh, I've got her, yeah, I know her. I've got her mobile phone number. I love this British expression. I was gobsmacked.
Right.
I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Really?
It makes so much sense that he would know her because of his volunteering for all these authors. So that was really great.
It was. And, he obviously developed a relationship with her because, she trusted him enough.
Yeah.
And Harvey, of course, met him and, knew of him. And so they trusted him enough that they were like, oh, yeah, you don't even have to talk to the assistant. let's just have Harvey call. And again, I was gobsmacked because, there's Harvey McKay on the phone.
Perfect. I love that.
That's it for today, Priscilla. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ivan. Well, that's it for this week, but I want to tell you that we have a new sponsor for our podcast, and it is MeisnerAudioPrograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience and help you boost your business. So whether you are a new or a seasoned member, these audio programs will help you unlock the power of networking. Check out the great material available to you at MeisnerAudioPrograms.com and use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of all audio programs. And all of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.